Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition? No,
Yeah.
I can't.
Up until 5 minutes ago, everybody understood what gender was, what sex was, and what being a man or a woman was. Even 5-year-old kids understood this.
My opinion is there are two genders, male and female.
But times and things have changed so fast, words have evolved so quickly that even a Supreme Court nominee would not define what a woman is.
I can't.
Ironically, she happened to be a woman, and one of the reasons she was nominated in the first place was because she was a woman.
Person I will nominate will be someone with extraordinary qualifications, character, experience, and integrity. And that person will be the first Black woman ever nominated to the United States Supreme Court.
The conversation surrounding gender, sex, and sexual identity has taken on a new life of its own. It's no longer centered on reality, science, tradition, or plain common sense. It has transcended all that into the realm of fiction, and bad fiction at that. When we hear terms like believe all women, the gender pay gap, gender-based violence, what objective meaning do they have in the current discourse? How can any of these make any sense when gender is believed to be as fluid and variant as the number of people on the planet?
There are 100 different genders on this BBC list, apparently, right? One of them is two-spirit person, polygender, pangender, neutroids, intergender.
I have to
gender
say,
non-conforming.
Do you know what they mean?
I have no idea what they mean, and I'm part.
Right. Well,
I'm
luckily we have the
supposedly
world
part of the
expert here.
community.
What is any of this?
What is gender? What is sex?
Do you
I'm not a
believe the meaning
biologist.
of
Many people understood gender and sex to be interchangeable, if not inextricably linked. Even before the advent of modern science, by mere observations, it was known that there is biological binary in humans. One sex had stereotypically distinct anatomical and physiological features from the other, and this binary was and is still true for the majority of people on Earth.
You were born a woman, and therefore you still identify as a woman, so you're a cisgendered woman, I would say.
And that's because of my physical
That's because
femaleness.
you identify.
However, there is a current thinking that proposes that any perceived differences between the sexes has no objective basis in reality, but are ultimately socially constructed.
So there's biological sex and then there's gender, and that's a social construct.
Some argue that sex and gender are two different things, and that sex is biological and only goes as far as the reproductive organs, while saying gender, on the other hand, is how people interact with their biological sex or the social norms constructed around biological sex.
How do you explain the difference between sex and gender?
I consider sex to be our biological makeup. Our chromosomes or hormones, our genitals is a biological makeup. But our gender is more of an internal sense. So think of it like this. Sex is what's between the legs and gender is what's between the ears, right? It's how we see ourselves on the inside.
Now, I can be gracious enough and accept these definitions as they are being given. However, these same people would turn around and conflate both terms in the same breath. They would immediately say things like, a baby was assigned so-and-so sex at birth, and that sex at birth cannot be known. The child has to grow up to be able to tell what sex they are.
So you have biology is the chromosomal makeup and reproductive organs and all of that. And so that would be sort of the nature side of things. But the nurture side of things is where we see more of gender identities.
They are conflating gender and sex because on one hand they say, well, you got your biological sex, but then your gender is whatever social construct. But then they turn around and say that trans women are women. So a man who identifies with the gender, the social construct of womanhood, actually is a woman. So if you can laugh all you want, but this is a logical problem. You are conflating sex and gender just by saying that. So that's the problem.
Now, from their definition, what I think they're actually referring to is the gender, because the sex, by their admission, as biological structures, are there at birth, distinguishable and observable by anyone. It's not like the parents tell the doctor what sex they want and then the doctor assigns and attaches either a vagina or a penis to a child, depending on the choice of the parents. That's not how it works. It would make more sense to say at birth, even though we know the sex of a child, male or female, we cannot tell its gender, which is how it will choose to relate with and express that sex. If both are unlinked, then the identifier for one should not be dependent on the other, yet they seem to argue for it being linked and being unlinked at the same time. If sex is biological, then there must be an objective term for referring to a group of people who share similar biological sexual organs as distinguished from others. And if that's the case, what should that term be? Are the terms male, female, man, woman, are they sex descriptors or are they gender descriptors? If they are sex descriptors, then it's easy to say a woman is a human being who has so and so sexual characteristics as distinct from a man who has so and so sexual characteristics. How difficult is that? But if the terms male, female, man, woman are gender descriptors, it immediately conveys a gender binary which undermines the whole gender is a social construct thing, as people can choose to relate with their sex in ways that would be distinct for every person on the planet, which would make gender into something not shared by people across board, but just as unique as a person's fingerprint. In that instance, there won't be 2 genders or 20 genders or even 100 genders. There will be as many genders as there are people on the planet. But the finiteness of gender, even when considering the current narrative, undermines that gender is unique to the individual. I believe there is a certain sense of performance, acting, and showmanship surrounding this discourse. People don't really believe in these things. They only do that to seem politically correct or not to offend a fringe and minuscule group of people. The inability of a female Supreme Court nominee to define what a woman is, even though one criteria for her selection was that she is a woman, just shows how much this has crossed into the realm of performance. I do not believe for a second that Ketanji Brown doesn't know what a woman is, or that she thinks a biologist is required to be able to define one. It's all a show, a virtue signaling show to the Democratic Party leadership and so on. It's a shame that part of what it means to function in society today is to be fake, inauthentic, to lie about things that are glaring so as not to offend the sensibilities of people. Perhaps this is the natural progression of the evolution of man. Maybe it's the life cycle of humanity. You evolve from simple-minded creatures and keep improving in intelligence until the zenith of such an evolution is reached. And from there, devolution, a downward trajectory, is the only way left to go. So if you believe gender and sex are the same thing and is a binary, leave a comment in the comment section below, like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.